I got you into a Remington party. What's my thanks? It's on the hallway carpet. I got paid in puke. Lick it up, baby. I got paid in puke.
Welcome to Paid in Puke, the podcast where we discuss female-driven films through an inclusive feminist lens, with the help of the 1988 film Heathers. Paid in Puke is hosted by Jessica Baxter, Amy Green, and Christina Barr. It's also a spoiler-filled free-for-all. You've been warned. On today's episode of Paid in Puke, we've got Spirit for Jamie Babbit's 1999 sapphic comedy But I'm a Cheerleader, starring Natasha Lyonne, Clea Duvall, Cathy Moriarty, and Melanie Lynskey. It was written by Brian Peterson from a story by Jamie Babbit. But I'm a Cheerleader tells the story of 17-year-old Megan, who is surprised when her parents send her to sexual conversion therapy because she is the last one to learn that she is a lesbian. While there, she meets a wide spectrum of LGBTQ characters struggling to come to terms with their identities in an environment that tells them everything they are is wrong.
Dear Lord, thank you for the abundance that you have provided. Please bless this food that we are about to eat. And Lord, please help us to obey the roles in life you set for us. Megan, we love you. And lately we've become concerned about certain behaviors.
You don't even like to kiss me.
It's true. You don't have any pictures of guys in your locker, just these.
We're afraid you're being influenced by a...
Honey, we think you're a lesbian.
I work for a place called True Directions who help people like yourself learn to understand their homosexual tendencies.
What tendencies?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Why don't you start by telling us the first time that you realized that you might be a lesbian?
I'm not perverted. I get good grades. I go to church. I'm a cheerleader.
It's a long path to righteousness, Megan. And it's a battlefield of temptation out there, and you're gonna have to fight.
I'm not supposed to like you, but...
Okay, who wants to go down with me?
I'm Jessica Baxter.
I've kind of gone back to Amy Green. I'm Christina Barr.
And joining us to discuss the campy cult classic is Kate Prusser. Kate, you brought this film to us. Can you please tell us why you chose it for Paid in Puke?
Because you had already done Showgirls, and that and Showgirls are the two movies I've seen the most and have shaped the person that I am the most.
Wow, that's
awesome.
What an answer.
Yeah.
Did you see it when it first came out?
I did. The funny story about that is I saw it at the Seattle International Film Festival. It premiered before it got distribution. It was on the film festival circuit. And I'm not like a movie watcher, if you didn't garner that from like the two movies I've seen the most. I've never claimed to have good taste in movies, but I went with a friend who really wanted to win this contest The Stranger was doing where you could get passes to the entire film festival. And she knew a lot about film, and I drove and she didn't. This is a very 90s story. So she finagled me to take her, even though I knew nothing about movies. We had to do a sit-down quiz. I mean, I didn't know anything about movies. I failed. I failed so spectacularly. And she did so well that they actually wound up giving us both the prize. So we both got full passes to the festival. And her, because she was so good and obviously knew things. And we were both like 20 at the time. Me, because they were like, bitch needs to watch some movies. Please learn something about this art form. Because I had the most hilariously bad test, I got it. And so, yeah, I actually saw it as part of that before anyone else had seen it. And I just remember the whole time watching it. I was 1 year removed from Catholic school and like super deeply closeted at the time. And I just remember being like, is this allowed? How is this okay? How do I get to like sit here and watch this? So yeah,
Wow.
One of the only movies I've seen, maybe the only movie I've ever seen twice in a theater. Because of course when it got released I went back and saw it again Both times by myself, creepily, weirdly. I think because I was still not ready to like disclose or talk about that aspect of myself with anyone. So anyway, hugely formational movie. I'm so excited to be here and talk about it. But I am worried because I listened to some of your previous episodes and I really don't want to have to fight anyone for saying mean things about this movie, even though I recognize that there are some real hot problems with it. So we're going to see if our friendship survives, Amy.
Oh, I'm not worried.
Well, I actually had a really hard time coming up with hot probs, so I'm interested to hear what your hot probs are. So why don't we go into that?
Just shut up. Hot probs is on.
Oh shit, yeah.
I've listened to enough where I understand mostly the format of how you like to lay things out, but please take my hand and guide me through Paid in Puke.
Well, hot probs is pretty broad. I mean, I guess all our categories are fairly broad. We don't like to be too, rigid in anything. So it's just anything that rubbed you the wrong way. It could be like a glaring continuity error that you couldn't unsee. It could be a casting choice you didn't like. Just anything that you're like, no about.
Yeah, just something that doesn't work for you in this movie.
Yeah, and Jamie Babbit has talked about this, but obviously the depiction of, and some of it is forced by how binary it is, but it's amazing that there's like not a bisexual in this movie, right?
Right.
Which, at the time, I think that my transition was fooling myself into thinking I was bi for a while, and so I understand maybe it was almost refreshing to have a space that was like, no, it's extremely binary, and it's just you are a lesbian or you're a gay man, and there's no middle ground. So like for me, that was very necessary at the time, I think, because it forced me out of this space I was in, but that's like a super selfish way to approach it. Obviously, bi people exists and are part of the queer community, and this movie completely ignores them. And trans people, although again, in the 90s, we were not having that conversation as much as we've been having that conversation now. I know that a lot of people read Jan's character as like trans mask coded.
Mm-hmm. Or like an
which
egg,
I feel like is maybe
kinda.
a little problematic as well.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with her, they're kind of trying where it's like some people just have sort of a gender difference. Gender presentation and sexuality are two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like as much of a spectrum as they were willing to give it. Was like there are many different ways to be a lesbian woman.
Right, or not a lesbian. Because she's not,
right, Yeah.
And I do think that the idea that gender presentation is not sexuality was kind of revolutionary at that time. Like,
definitely.
That is still a conversation that I feel like we're having, and Jan's like, I like balls.
I've never been gay. Huh?
Jan, remember, you were molested. You just take a look at yourself.
I mean, everybody thinks I'm this big dyke because I wear baggy pants, I play softball, and I'm not as pretty as other girls, but it doesn't make me gay. Yeah, I like guys. Can't help it. I just want a big fat wiener. I'm like...
Amen, sister.
Just because I dress this way or I present this way doesn't mean that I am this thing. I watched it twice in preparation for this, and the first time I was like, ooh, Jan is maybe problematic. And then I watched it again and really came to, no, I don't think Jan is problematic. And I've read trans people, too, on this movie, and they've said they do see some representation in Jan, so that's not my conversation to have. But it was nice to see that there are people out there who say, like, no, this is something that was my way of seeing myself in this movie.
Yeah, you do have to take what you can get in the 90s for that sort of thing. And it's interesting that you mentioned the bisexual erasure because that was a huge problem in the 90s in real life as well. So I realized very late in life that I'm bisexual, and I had lesbian friends tell me, if you like dick, you can't possibly really like women, it's just a phase. They were my friends. They were just trying to help me out, and it wasn't very helpful. So that is a problem. But again, it's like the best they could do, and they were kind of lucky that they were even able to squeak all of that past the censors.
Yeah, there's a whole other conversation to have about this movie. And again, something that I think is relevant today, but specifically in the way that female sexuality is policed or graded versus... It's wild to think that this came out basically the same year as American Pie did, and this this got slapped with like an NC-17 and that skated by with like an R rating. And Jamie Babbit said she thought this was a G-rated movie. Right. She thought it was PG at best because there's no nudity, extremely mild swearing.
Yeah.
I don't know that you would have ever gotten away with it PG, but I feel like you could call this movie PG-13. And she had to like take out all this stuff and like lighten up the sex scene, like physically lighten it because the censors were like, no, it's dark. We can't see what they're doing. That's why it's an NC-17. She was like, I thought I was doing the right thing by making it dark and like obscuring it.
That's so wow. It's almost as if you couldn't make them happy by having lesbians in a movie.
No. And what is really striking, first of all, I'm like super bummed out at how relevant this 20-year-old movie feels to a lot of the conversations that we're having these days about gender and sexuality and trans kids and this moral panic involving gay and trans kids.
Yeah.
It super bums me out that this movie is 20 years old and still feels like it's got something to say about that. But also so indicative of the fact that what they imagine is always going to be worse. Like what they think that kids are getting up to or gay people are getting up to is so much worse. I mean, we're just like living our lives. We're just normal, boring people. Awkward first time lesbian sex is the same as any other kind of sex. But just by darkening it, you make that space for them to imagine the worst things happening. And I feel like conservatives aren't creative until it comes to like imagining what people they dislike get up to in the bedroom.
Right.
I know, right? It almost says something about them. Right. It is so tame, and I watched it with my 13-year-old, and she liked it, and she actually did read Jan as trans as well, and maybe that is just because she has trans friends now that she would not have been able to have in the 90s. There just weren't 13-year-olds who could be out like that.
No, like there were a couple kids in my high school who were out and gay, but they were, they were like those girls. But there was not anyone who was trans. And so it's interesting to go back and look at my old high school class and see, like, first of all, who's gay now, who's not out at the time. But then also who is trans now who could not be out at that time.
Yeah.
It was so far away. Like, gay marriage wasn't legal. It felt like something, I was trying to explain this to, like, younger friends of mine. Like, we were never going to get past it. And then all of a sudden, very quickly, it felt like things did loosen up and they got more accepting, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have rights, this is amazing. And now it's just like absolutely the opposite, whiplash, shoving everyone back in the closet all over again, trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I know, the idea that it's like an epidemic, it's like, no, people are just finally feeling comfortable to say who they are. It's not like they're recruiting other people. It's so interesting, the arguments they're able to come up with based on the way they're misinterpreting evidence. Like, oh, there's more trans people now than there ever were. It's like, no, they were always there. They were just too scared to do anything about it.
I had a question for you guys about, again, because I'm trying to recognize my blind spots with this movie that means so much to me. With the other campers, did you feel like they were fully fleshed out characters, or like, are they stereotypes? Is that part of the movie, is just having people be these easily send-upable stereotypes, like Joel the Jew? I'm always stuck on Joel the Jew, who had a traumatic bris. And that was, that was
his root.
Right, the root.
Like, they definitely did not do a good job of differentiating the boys, I thought.
Right. Well, but I feel like some of that, in this situation, you're only going to have these like stereotypical flamey kind of gays because those are the ones who get sent to conversion therapy, like,
that's true.
Like if there was someone who doesn't present that way. I mean, we all know lots of gay people who you wouldn't know they were gay from just hanging out with them. Those people weren't clocked by their parents and sent to conversion therapy, I am curious why there's someone from New Zealand. Like, wow, people come from all over the world to this conversion.
Yeah. Although, I don't know, that tracks, like, I went to a summer camp that was tangentially related to a cult, and there were people from Europe there. There was, like, a French kid one year and an English girl one year, and so the sort of cult mentality can attract people from all around the world, but New Zealand is, like, as far as you can get. So,
I just felt like they really wanted Melanie Lynskey to be the movie.
Yeah.
I don't question that. I love her. Love when she uses her accent. I'm not questioning why she's there so much as why.
Yeah, like this little outfit is international.
Right, right.
I mean, they talk a lot of times about how expensive it is too, so I don't know, maybe she's able to go on these worldwide recruiting trips to find her gays.
I mean, that is a thing that extremely religious people do, is they go to other countries to spread the word or whatever.
Yeah, which would track with the whole missionary aspect. As far as like stereotypes, Megan is also kind of a stereotype. You know, she gets rung up because she's vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little bit like homosexual artifacts.
Let's take a look at some of the homosexual artifacts I dug up.
Yeah, like there's the Georgia O'Keeffe pillow, which I think is maybe...
You've been trying to make us eat this tofu.
In diet, watch for a switch to vegetarianism.
You don't have any pictures of guys in your locker, just these.
These. Sexual. Even vaginal motifs in artwork and decorating. Gay iconography.
It gets more and more ridiculous the more things they bring up until they pull out the full-on Georgia O'Keeffe. But again, watching that in the theater, I was thinking about my own wall. It's like, oh no, there's like a huge Tori Amos poster on the wall. I had recently gone vegetarian, and I remember like, ooh, like I was being given an intervention as well. Oh no. And that part where she's like, I'm a homo. I'm a homo. You know, in her perfect Natasha Lyonne voice. She has those eyes, like her eyes bug out and cross kind of as she comes to that realization.
I'm a homosexual. I'm a homosexual.
Congratulations, Megan. You have just taken your first step in your true direction.
Oh my God. They were right. I'm a homo.
It is simultaneously, for me, one of the funniest moments of the film. It is also heartbreaking because it was so relatable. And also it's heartbreaking because I think she plays it beautifully. She is overwhelmed in one breath. And the way that she reads each of those lines, like, I'm a homosexual. It's part despairing, it's part celebratory. She has tears of joy, but also tears of pain. And she's being forced to go through it in this, like, god-awful... Her coming out experience is about the worst coming out experience you could have. And just the way that joy and pain is twisted up. It's a funny movie that constantly dances on the edge of sadness.
Yeah, I think the best satires do that. To have like moments of true tragedy. Because usually they're satirizing something that is very painful, and that's why it has to have a comedic element involved.
I think that's what makes people so angry about it. There is so much real hurt and pain at the heart of it. You know, she wanted to make a camp movie because there were no lesbian camp movies at the time. She was really influenced by like John Waters, and there's an Edward Scissorhands type aesthetic, and wanting to take that and make something for the lesbian community that was camp. And instead in reviews they were like, oh, this is like a watered down John Waters. No, it's not.
Yeah, I really loved the John Waters kind of vibe to it too. It was like kind of colorful sets.
I love the set design. It's really cool.
It is really cool. It's got this like comedic aspect to it, but going to a conversion therapy camp or being sent there, all of that stuff is so dark.
Awful,
you know, it's awful.
And how many parents are like, don't come back?
Her parents told her she can't come back and live at home with them. And then there's some line where Cathy Moriarty's like, she makes some allusion to suicides. It was something where it was like, I can't remember the exchange, but that line, it really hit me like, because like a lot of kids kill themselves. I mean, it's like really hard to...
Well, when your parents are the ones who are turning against you like that, it's like, what could be more of a betrayal?
Right. And like her...
Maybe you're not their child anymore if you continue to be yourself.
I've heard enough of this crap. When you get back from Switzerland, you better have this gay thing out of your system. Got it?
I got it.
Fuck up. No college, no car, no trust fund.
I think that in Graham, you get like little glimpses as to why Graham is so wounded and why Graham does what she does. But when her stepmother's like, this is why your mother left.
Blowing each other after your fucking bar mitzvah is a little bit different than learning how to dog pedal.
That is totally
uncalled for. Well, excuse me, but we're paying a lot of money here to get these kids fixed, not sit around and listen to stories all day. Graham, I hope you're getting a little more out of this program than that over there.
Basically blaming the divorce or the marital problems that they had, which pretty clearly he is drawn to be an asshole. Like, it's definitely not her fault. I think it's one of those times too where you remember, like, these are kids and they really do want their parents' approval. They want to succeed. Megan tries so hard to get like a gold star in conversion therapy. You know, she says, I'll be normal soon. Or Andre just like desperately searching for his root, trying to figure out why he is the way he is.
And I realized that when we finished swimming lessons, we would change in front of each other. And that's it. Why I'm a homo.
Andre, that's what kids do after swimming lessons. Change. Everybody does that.
But I took one look at those boys and I gotta, you know what?
Right, like trying to think of, because everyone comes up with a root, but it's obviously just like to appease Mary. It's not real. So he's like trying desperately to think of something that doesn't even exist, and he's like beating himself up about it. I was wondering if Graham's mom was a lesbian, and that's why this is why she left. I read it as like she left because she couldn't be straight either.
I think that there are definitely some shadings to that. Although then why wouldn't Graham just like get to live with her and they can be happily sapphic together?
Yeah. Maybe I just wanted like the happiest possible read of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have any other hot probs?
I have some other hot probs. Sure. I'm sorry. I don't want to like talk all over.
No.
Oh, I love hearing. Yeah, this is awesome.
One of my hot probs is that, first of all, there is just no way that Julie Delpy playing the lipstick lesbian, talking about like the amount of talent that is concentrated in this movie. Julie Delpy playing lipstick lesbian makes a beeline straight for Megan. No, absolutely not. She'd never do that. She would absolutely go for Graham. All the girls in that club would be crawling all over heartthrob Graham. So I almost feel like there was a problem with the new Graham. We're supposed to read Megan as the ingenue and she's being introduced into this world and stuff, but I'm like, any lesbian club on planet Earth would just have everyone all over Clea Duvall. It's like Shane, it's the cool hot girl. Like, no, there's no way Megan would not get a second look from Julie Delpy. Sorry.
She does look extremely square. I mean, she doesn't even look like she belongs in any bar anywhere. So square. But I really like that she embraces her squareness in the end, too. She's like, I can be a lesbian and also be these other things that I wasn't pretending about.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that somebody who turned out to be like a huge mentor figure in my life later on. We took a creative writing class together at the UW, and she was like the first lipstick lesbian I'd ever known. And the first way that I could like see myself in this world, because I was like, I am not butch. I will never be butch. But it seemed to me like that was how you had to be. When I looked around at like lesbian culture or whatever, I just didn't see a place for myself, which was why this movie was so important. And Megan remaining like a peppy cheerleader to the end was important. The woman in my creative writing class was like, if I can't wear lipstick, it's not my revolution.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That has stuck in my mind forever, 20 years later. There's also the yelling, kissing, like where she's like,
why are you freaking out? None of my business. Do what you want. You want me to do what I want? I could care less. What I really want? Screw you!
And then they kiss. And it's so cheesy. And I do appreciate, like, she was trying to make a lesbian version of Clueless, like a true lesbian romantic comedy. But yeah, I recognize, even though that scene is so pivotal for me, taking a step back, I'm like, is this a little trite? I know you guys also did Happiest Season, which to me this is true acceptance when lesbians get to make bad movies. Yeah. The lesbian version of the reality show, what was it called? I watched it. It was such a hot mess. Anyway, I'm like, oh good, now we can be represented as terrible people as well on reality television. Like, this feels like true equality. Cheesy romantic comedy.
You should be able to have any genre you want, and romantic comedies always have the fighting to fucking
it's such a movie thing. Like, have you ever done that in your life?
Is it Tampa Bay's BAES? No, it's not that.
Tell me.
It's a Bravo show.
Tampa Bay.
Our community has so much opportunity for drama. I don't remember what it was called. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, it was the ultimatum. Ultimatum queer love.
That sounds serious.
Where they're like, either we get married and live together for the rest of our lives, or we break up.
Oh, that's high drama right there. Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely as bad as you think. For so long, every lesbian movie had to be like an indie film and like so earnest. And it was so sad. And they always died in the end.
Yeah.
And like that was what I knew about queer cinema growing up. It's shot in like kind of a blue color and it's sad and everyone dies at the end. So this like pastel pink confection of a movie that was for laughs and has a happy ending was like so revolutionary at the time.
Absolutely. That definitely tracks for Hollywood, is that like any marginalized group, we can only see the marginalized people suffer for art. Seeing them have joy, that's a little too much in my face, pushing your lifestyle in my face.
Right. It was also like, well, why do we want to see that?
Your group is known to suffer, so why isn't this representation of you being
If it was happy, we could just have straight people.
Which is,
like, we already have that.
into so many negative reviews about this, which I have written down.
Oh yes, this is our segment.
Did you have a brain tumor for breakfast?
Which is all of the insane critical takes at the time. And I will say that to this day, this movie has a 42% Rotty T score because of all those fucking reviews by dipshits in 1999. So yes, please tell us what you found, Kate.
Well, we have Paul Tatara from CNN.
Oh god, and I used to love him.
This movie Smug. And says it congratulates itself for existing, which just feels to me like a Paul Tatara problem and not a problem with this movie.
Yeah.
It congratulates itself. One of the least complex movies of the year, which, I mean, I guess you could say it was like not super complex if you completely ignore all the very real devastation at the heart of the movie that it's dancing around all the time.
Right, like would you say that about You've Got Mail?
There's a common thread with all of these reviews, I think, where they're mad at the way that the story was told because they expected it should be something else. It's called lazy counter-propaganda. Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian said he wished it was a documentary about conversion camps, which is like...
What?
I mean, that's a very good movie to be made as well, but that's not this movie.
Yeah, you'd rather see the real suffering.
Right, like he wants this to be really happening? Why would you want that?
Exactly. Maybe one of the worst reviews came from David Edelstein. He said, a straight film that makes homosexuality look repulsive would be justifiably criticized, and there's no reason for a gay film that makes heterosexuality look unnatural and tasteless should be judged by a different standard.
Oh my god.
So basically,
what? I get uncomfortable when it's not about me.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Is this about me? It's not? Now I hate it. Doesn't really say anything about heterosexuality, really.
It says something about Christian sexuality, I guess, but yeah, definitely not heterosexuality in general. That is insane.
Yeah. Like, if you feel like your sexuality is being sent up by this movie, then I feel like that's a deeper conversation you need to have with yourself and not with this movie.
So true.
Stephen Farber from Movie Line called it ham-fisted and witless, which I guess some of these reviews I thought were funny, and some of them, like, really did make me mad. Barry Paris from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette called it a grotesque burlesque of a gay chick flick.
What?
Kevin Ice of the LA Times suggested, this was maybe the funniest / worst. He suggested a pair of male directors who'd be better suited to the material, including Todd Solondz and Miguel Arteta and Mike White. So yeah.
Because again, he wants to see the tragedy and suffering. It's not good unless everyone's having a terrible time in the movie. And actually suffering and there's no comedy.
Maybe you should send in some men to do this.
That's the key element.
That's as far as I got in the bad reviews, because I had to stop because it tipped over from being just funny to me at how much they didn't get it into actively making me angry.
Yeah.
And I know that Jamie Babbit is still angry about it because she's referenced the fact that she got an F in Entertainment Weekly for the film multiple times. And to this day, it was the only F she'd ever seen in Entertainment Weekly.
Oh my god.
Which just seems so harsh for a film that just wants to make a certain number of people happy.
It's just so wrong. It's crazy when that happens. It's better received now. And I saw lots of 20-year anniversary reviews and that sort of thing, but it just wasn't enough to counteract the sheer barrage of negative reviews that came out at the time.
Yeah, it's rightfully regarded as a cult classic now, and as I think recognized for what it was doing that was transgressive, progressive, whatever, essive you want to put on it at the time. But I wonder, because Jamie Babbit just went back and she directed a couple other films, Itty Bitty Titty Committee, which I did not see, and obviously was involved in other things, was involved in helping Clea Duvall make Happiest Season. But really, she's just been directing a bunch of TV shows ever since.
Yeah, I saw that. She did a lot of Russian Doll.
She did an episode of Only Murders in the Building. She's done a bunch of teen dramas, and she's pretty well respected as a TV director, but it felt like, okay, back in your box, woman. You're very cute and fun, but that is for television, and we're going to leave the serious auteurs, the male directors, over here.
Yeah, she did an episode of Nip Tuck. That was basically trash TV pretending to be prestige TV. And then Gilmore Girls is for the ladies, so of course she's allowed to direct that.
Right.
But that is something that a lot of misunderstood directors were able to do, at least, is to find art in television. I'm glad that there's so much artistic television now, but it'd be nice if they could do movies too.
I am glad. I just wish that she'd gotten a little more credit for this.
Jealous much?
A lot of people really wanted to be involved in it. Natasha Lyonne picked this script up. So she'd already cast Clea Duvall. She essentially wrote the part for Clea Duvall with her writing partner, the guy who did the script. And then Natasha Lyonne was getting a ride back from an audition. They both auditioned for Girl Interrupted. Clea got the part, Natasha did not. And Natasha saw the script in Clea's car and was like, what's this? And at that point, Michelle Williams was maybe in talks to play Megan, but she was on Dawson's Creek at the time. And Jamie Babbit wanted Rosario Dawson to be Megan, but was talked out of it because her executive producer was like, you're supposed to be telling this story about this all-American, and people just won't relate to her because she's Puerto Rican, which is its own form of
which is
sadness.
part of America.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so Natasha Lyonne was just like, I want to be in this. Can I be in this? And Melanie Lynskey was basically in it because she was friends with all of them.
Oh, nice.
So then I feel like we missed the opportunity to have our own kind of lesbian rat pack.
The Pussy Posse, the real Pussy Posse.
These ladies should have just been making a bunch of movies together throughout the early 2000s, which was really, in a lot of ways, kind of a golden age for gay cinema. But I'm a Cheerleader walked so Debs could fly.
I was very happy to see Michelle Williams at the very beginning, at least. I love her so much. I watched Dawson's Creek basically for her because she was so good and so much better than the material.
Yeah.
So I was really excited.
She wanted to be in this so badly that she scheduled it around, she'd work on Dawson's Creek all week and then fly in on the weekends to film her small little role in this. Yeah, Michelle Williams has always been better than what she's been given to work with. Although she's very good at Brokeback Mountain, if we're talking about gay cinema classics.
The four leads in that just kill it. They just absolutely destroy that movie. That's a movie that I love but can't really watch because it's too fucking sad. I get depressed for days afterwards.
And again, another movie that got well received because it did what a gay movie was supposed to do. Everybody in it's miserable. Everyone's living a lie. And
no one gets to be with the one they love.
It's just a really big bummer. And you're like, yes, this is the gay experience.
This is what we want the gay experience to be.
Gay happiness is transgressive and revolutionary and political. I hope that kids these days have access to this movie. It's kind of hard to get. It obviously doesn't run on any of the major... I want to know how teens are experiencing this movie these days because there's a fair amount of people who cosplay it on TikTok and stuff because my dream is to be Megan for Halloween one year. Just don't feel like anyone would get it. Just be like, oh, you're a cheerleader. No. But it does seem like it's getting to the kids. So yeah, those of you with teens, I'm interested in how teens approach this movie, if it will carry forward.
Well, I'm happy to say that I did the best I could because I watched it with my 13-year-old and then she told a bunch of her friends at school about it, so.
Good.
I have the DVD, so I don't know, is it streaming? Did you?
Yeah, we watched it streaming.
Okay, good. So it is accessible
Yeah.
because, having it be only on physical media is a pretty big stumbling block for the Z's and alphas to find things.
You blow it tonight, girl, and it's Keggers with kids all next year.
I have my child, Fern, 13 years old.
Hello.
So, Fern, you watched But I'm a Cheerleader with me in preparation for the podcast. What did you think about the movie?
I really liked it personally. I didn't know that there were movies like that were like so open about being pro-LGBT 20 years ago. I didn't know that media like that existed. I thought it was really good and insightful about like the struggles of kids that were forced into conversion therapy. I really liked the movie. I thought it was funny and charming, and I liked the characters, and I found it relatable.
What were some aspects that you found relatable?
The like denial at first of being a lesbian, but then realizing that if you're accepted by the people around you, then you don't have to be worried about who you are. I also learned that conversion therapy is terrible.
Yeah. Well, you'd never even heard of it, right? When we were watching it, you're like, is this a real thing?
Yeah, I didn't
And it is.
I didn't know that it was actually like that. Child abuse, and kind of like perverted to do that. To like be so
totally
invested in a child's sexuality that you like force them to be sexually attracted to the other gender. Comparing a healthy relationship to like whatever the hell they're doing there.
Yeah, it didn't seem like what they were going for was very healthy, did it?
No.
Yeah.
Conversion therapy, I feel like, is just teaching your kid to lie, to be a good liar.
Yeah.
Either lying to you about their sexuality or lying to themselves about their sexuality.
Yeah, it's a very good observation. What was your favorite character?
I liked the goth girl. She reminded me of Logan, and I thought she was cute. She dressed like Logan. I also liked the main character, Megan, because you just get thrown into it and realize that you're having these feelings that you don't quite know how to process. It's especially tough when the people around you aren't understanding or accepting. And I'm really glad to be growing up in a family that does accept me.
Yeah.
I have experienced bigotry before. I feel like their representation of it is very accurate, saying that this is not who you are wrong. Your mind has been poisoned, you were not born this way, you are supposed to be something else. I've seen that, I've heard that before, using religion as an excuse to control your kids' beliefs and identity.
Yeah.
And it's just really gross. It's kind of having the opposite effect on me. If you really want me to believe that there is a God and that he doesn't like me for who I am, then, why should I believe in him?
Right.
If there is a God, like, if God didn't create me the way I am, then I don't think he created me at all. I made myself. You made me, Mom. And you really helped me figure out who I am, so, I have you to thank for who I am today, and I'm really glad to have such a supportive family. And that is something that all kids should get. All kids should be accepted for who they are, who they want to be, and not be controlled by what their parents believe. And I like how that movie depicted that. If you do stuff like that to your kids, it's not helping them become who you are. Your kid isn't going to be exactly like you. And you have to accept that, or they're going to become distant from you because they know when they're around you, they feel like they can't be themselves. And I really like the way that movie portrays it, because if you don't raise your kids properly, somebody else is, and then they're not going to see you as their caretaker anymore, because they don't think of you as someone that they can trust.
Yeah, that's what I really don't get about it, is why would you want to push your kids away like that?
Yeah, for just being themselves and not being at all harmful, just wanting to have healthy relationships with other people their age. It doesn't matter what their gender is. Also, not right to think that there are only two genders, because gender is a spectrum and doesn't line up to sex, and there's a lot of things to learn about it. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to not be a bigot.
It's easier, I
You
feel
just
like,
have to try.
accept people when you do know that it's a spectrum like that, because if you don't expect people to be anything, it's much better for everyone if you just say, hello, tell me who you are.
Yeah. If I want to abide by someone by their correct pronouns, then just ask them. Don't assume by how they look. A lot of trans people don't even know they're trans until they've been told. And then after that, they purposely refer to them as the wrong pronouns. It's actually harder to do that than just listen to people and try your best, and if you get it wrong, then correct yourself and try to be better about it. It's a lot easier than purposely just being an awful person.
Right, I know. It seems like it would be so hard to live with so much hate in your heart all the time.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, there's just so much setup in the movie. This entire house, and their parents are paying so much money, and there's all these, like, props and literally, like, putting kids on shock collars.
Yeah, like, the kids left school. They weren't going to school. It's not good either. They're
it was
missing
during
an
school.
actual
They were
education.
missing curriculum.
I think they said it was 4 months or something.
4 months.
Yeah.
And, like, the way they're doing it is not even very effective. It's also extremely sexist. The boys play football and fix the stuff, and then the girls put diaper on and clean house and make food for the boys. Also, there was, I'm pretty sure, a trans boy, and they put him with the girls.
Yeah, we talked about that. Jan is not necessarily within the text a trans boy, but they're definitely there. I mean, everyone's there under duress, but they're even being told what you are is a lesbian, and that's wrong. And Jan's like, I'm not a lesbian.
Yeah.
You're wrong about all of it. But then our guest told us that she has met many trans people that said it does read as trans, even though it couldn't be explicitly that in the text at the time. Like, that was just something that was unheard of.
They weren't really allowed to say that.
Basically, as much representation as they have is as much as they could get away with. And even then, there's a lot of backlash for it.
Yeah, but I still like that they really, really tried.
They really tried. They did their absolute best, given so many limitations.
And I really love them for that. The movie was charming and funny, and I just really loved a lot of the stuff about it. How awful conversion therapy can be, and it taught me a lot. The fact that they outright have people say the F slur, like, this movie is just very unleashed and ahead of its time, really.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, you said you didn't know there could be movies like that from the past, and there really weren't. That was basically it. There are a couple of others, but it's few and far between with queer representation in the 90s.
Yeah, we don't even really have that much stuff like that now.
Yes.
Like, on, like, big budget stuff.
Well, that wasn't a big budget film.
Or,
yeah,
like,
it
just
is getting better, but we still... Again, it's like, oh, we gave you one. Why isn't that enough? Thank you, Fern.
Thank you, Mom.
I say we just grow up, be adults, and die.
I have a fun fact. I know that usually Bax, you handle the fun facts, but...
No, anyone can have a fun fact.
Heather, my love, there's a new sheriff in town.
I just really like them.
In my researching of this movie, while we're talking about people who are involved in this, Ione Skye was thanked in the credits.
Oh, yeah, she was in it. Yeah, I love that.
She was?
Because there's a deleted scene, which you can see in the director's cut, which was streaming for a little while. I don't know if it's out there anymore, but you can see in the director's cut there's like an informational video that Megan watches when she gets the true directions, and it's like, here's so-and-so, and now she lives this happy heterosexual life. And the person in question is Ione Skye.
Kelly had hopes of being a model one day. That is, until she was recruited into the homosexual lifestyle.
She made me do things with other women. She drove me on the back of her Harley like I was some showpiece.
But Kelly sought help. After just 2 months in True Direction's easy 5-step program, Kelly rediscovered her femininity and embraced her true self. On March 16th, 1996, Kelly was married.
That's so funny.
Awesome.
That was in the version I watched this week.
Oh, really?
So like,
You watched the director's cut, I guess.
yeah, I guess
Cool.
so. I didn't realize it. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, Ione
The director's cut, like, this is not a Zach, what's his name situation. It adds 2 minutes, maybe. She was obsessed with this idea that the movie had to be like a lean machine, 80-minute running time max. I think the director's cut version is 85 minutes or something. It really doesn't add anything significant. Again, such an example of how, like, as women, we're like, gotta squeeze myself down, gotta be smaller, gotta be aerodynamic, lean, tight, can't take up too much space, can't take up too much of people's time. Okay,
Totally.
I watch a 300-minute version of this film.
Meanwhile, Nolan's man-spreading all over his running time. I had a fun fact, but I wish I could find more about it, which was that there was an actress they had in mind originally, but she couldn't do it because of religious reasons, and I could not find who it was. Do you know who it was?
No, one day I will find Jamie Babbit and I will make her answer that question for me, because I lie awake at night and think about who it could be.
Yeah, I really wanted to find it. I think it's just not, it's like,
Wow.
who is you're so vain about?
That's
Just a really well
very
secret.
deep. Wow.
Yeah, I think the exact quote that I read somewhere was, I can't have my face on this movie poster for my mom to see, or that my parents would see, or something like that. Which again, I wonder if that would be an issue these days, but I think really speaks to like the time and that kind of gray zone of acceptance that we're in, where like you could make a movie like this, but it would run into all these ratings restrictions and it would only be released certain places and it would have to play the film festivals first. And like, this movie is a silly romantic comedy for all its serious subject matter. It's not like, to me, what I think about when I think about a film festival movie. But I'm very glad that's how it came into my life.
Yeah. Happy to say that film festival movies aren't just Brokeback Mountain. They've had these cute, quirky movies in them for a while. But they aren't the ones that end up getting picked up and getting awards thrown at them.
No.
I've already started underlining meaningful passages in her copy of Moby Dick, if you know what I mean.
Why don't you start, Kate?
I mean, I already gave my most meaningful passage, which I think is like, I'm a homosexual. It's truly just great acting. I think Natasha Lyonne is so special as an actor, and you always see her as these tough, edgy characters. It was so nice to just be an America's sweetheart kind of thing, even though I know that was a stretch for her.
Yeah.
One of the lines that always makes me laugh is when they're doing all their roots, and Sinead's is,
I was born in France.
Those are all really funny.
I think it might be a great idea for Megan to be reminded of your root, Graham.
My mother got married in pants.
Dolph.
Too many locker room showers with the varsity team.
Hillary.
All-girl boarding school.
Clea.
My mom let me play in her pumps.
I like balls.
My mother got married in pants.
Yeah.
That was just so random. Like, okay.
And again, the way that she delivers that with like this kind of mock sincerity, like she knows it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she had to just basically make that up or think of some dumb thing to appease Mary because she won't let it go. Like you have to do every single step the way she wants you to do it. So you just have to bullshit your way through the program.
Yes. Well, speaking of somebody who doesn't bullshit their way through the program, I think Andre is so over the top and so camp that like could have just been a really one-note character, but there's actual struggle in trying to figure out the root. That scene where he's sitting there with his parents, who are obviously Latino descent, which just kind of points a finger towards homosexuality in Latin culture and how difficult that is. Like, I would have watched a whole movie about Andre.
Yeah.
But when Andre gets kicked out of the program, he has that great exit line.
Congratulations, liars. You know who you are and you know who you want. Ain't nobody gonna change that shit.
Ain't nobody gonna change that shit. Let's go back to when Mary says, Andre, we don't swear or use double negatives in directions. So of course his like exit line is both those things.
Andre?
Shit, Miss Mary, I ain't the only one who don't got no root.
Andre, we don't use profanity or double negatives here at True Directions.
That is awesome. I wrote that down. You don't use profanity or double negatives. I really appreciated the poetry in that line.
I also just really like when RuPaul is like, I myself was once a gay.
I myself was once a gay. Now I'm an ex-gay, Megan.
I always thought it was a gay.
A gay is very funny.
RuPaul out of makeup is also kind of a revelation.
Yeah, nobody had really seen that at the time.
Yeah.
Now you see it all the time on Drag Race, but that was like his face reveal.
Yeah. I also like...
First time you've all been AWOL?
Larry and Lloyd are ex-gays. From True Directions?
We were among Mary's ranks before we defected.
We're just trying to provide you all with a balanced perspective to see that there are options. In the end, it's up to you whether you choose to live a lie. Whether you want to be who you are or keep it hidden is really more what we're about.
So you run like the underground homo railroad.
Yeah, that too.
Larry and Lloyd, Morgan Gordon.
I know, Rose like, Richard Mall! I totally forgot.
Oh, I know, the night court guy. I was like, oh my god.
It's such a fun cast. I mean, I love seeing Bud Cort in anything. Like
Oh
this.
yeah, and Mink Stole, which is like a nod to her influences. I feel like she is influenced by John Waters, but in the good way. Like she's not copying him. She's just having little homages, and so it's so fucking unreasonable to be like, you should have been more like him. Like you should have ripped him off more, because that's what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. Also, this isn't a line, it is all silent, but like the conversation that they have with their eyes that Megan and Graham have in the room before they like sneak off to go have sex. And it's just like, obviously this is not a visual medium, so I can't make it clear, but there's just this great interplay between the two of them, and Megan kind of looks towards the door like, you want to go out and have some fun? And there is so much chemistry, and you really see it's because they were good friends and they really do love each other, have remained lifelong friends. I know Clea Duvall was instrumental in pulling Natasha Lyonne back sometimes, you know, when she hit some rock bottoms with her addictions during kind of that dark period where she like dropped off. Sort of between this and when she started doing Orange is the New Black, she just had like a dark period.
Yeah, she almost died. I remember that.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so much trust and love between the two of them, and it really, really comes across. There's so much chemistry in this movie.
There really is. And it's so
There's
cute.
a lot of pining. I'm a real sucker for pining. Love me a good pine.
My friend Alicia from Gal Pals Watch also says that. She loves a lesbian pine. Scent of the pine.
There's so much of this. Again, when they go out to cocksucker.
I loved that.
That is so funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. My kids they didn't really get it, but it is because so many gay bars have like innuendo, and this one's just like straight up, this is what happens.
Yeah, we watched it with Matt. It's like, like they always have these like little secretive names, code names. Cocksucker.
Which also like is representative because, you know, it's them getting to like experience their authentic selves. When Megan comes into the bathroom, there's Graham in that black shirt. That was a real like, oh, moment for me. As it was we were going through that at the same time, me and Megan. Oh no. I'm a homosexual.
I definitely related to the line about, it was in the intervention, I think, but it was like, you have so many pictures of women up in your locker, and you're always like looking at women. She's like, everybody has those thoughts when they look at women. And they were like, no they don't.
I'm not like all of you. Everyone reads Cosmo. Everyone looks at other girls all the time.
But you only assume that they're thinking what you're thinking when they look. But they're not.
Everybody had those thoughts.
That was something that kind of literally happened to me.
There is so much of that where it's like, what is friendship? Again, when they're out at Cocksuckers, and Graham like pushes her out to dance with Julie Delpy because they're just friends. And then she like has that look of anguish watching Megan dance with someone else.
Hi. Would you like to dance? Sure she does. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. That's okay. Just that is. No problem. You live for one dance? You can't dance with a girl for 1 second? Go ahead. Hi. Sorry, I just don't dance much. It's okay.
That whole interplay, I was like, oh, there's something that is so specific about that part of gay experience. We're friends, but I like you, but I have to be a good friend to you, so I'm gonna like support you in dating this other person, even though it makes me feel like I swallowed a cheese grater. It's fine. That's the kind of lesbian angst that I want to see on the big screen. Not so much my parents are going to disown me, because sometimes, like, both are relatable, but there's one that I feel like relating to more often than the other one.
Sure. I am so glad that they have that post-credits stinger where Megan's parents are at a PFLAG meeting. PFLAG. I'm beginning to like the sound of that. That's
really
why
I think it's nice too that you see that one still hasn't really come around, you know.
Yeah.
It seems like the dad is like, okay, I'm here for it, and mom is still like,
but she went there.
I know she went there. Yeah, no,
so they're really trying. I like that is nice, because then like the last thing you hear before that is that she can't come home. So even though it ends with her getting together with Graham, it's like, oh, but she's still disowned. But then she's gonna be out of that house soon anyway. But her parents did not disown her, which is really nice. Fuck all those other parents, though.
Fuck all those other parents. It is funny because part of Megan's root, they discovered the true root, which of course is not really any kind of root, but like her dad was emasculated because he didn't have a job for a while. Her mom had to work. And, your father was a doormat and your mom was domineering.
You know, we've kind of been like this greeting card family. And then there was that one year where, well, Dad was unemployed and Mom had to support us. Well, maybe seeing Mom kind of being the dad, maybe I got kind of the wrong idea about the roles of men and women.
Absolutely. You know, I can't believe that you didn't mention this earlier. Your father was emasculated, your mother was domineering.
Well, not exactly.
You wanted to emulate your mother. You have no respect for men because you don't respect your father.
It's really not like that.
Megan, you have found your root.
Sort of at the end, you see like, oh, well, her mom is a strong figure because she's the one who hasn't really come around yet to accepting her. And Dad is maybe the more accepting one.
Mm-hmm. She's taking on the more masculine role of being more intolerant.
It's also a familiar twist, though. I don't know if you've seen Ma Vie en Rose, which was my favorite movie before I watched this movie. It's French, and it's a little kid who grows up and wants to wear dresses, and at first you think the mom is going to be the more sympathetic one, but then there's like a switch in the dynamic, and the father actually becomes the more accepting one, and the mother is the one who like pushes the child away. It's a similar shift here. Like, you expect the mom to be the more nurturing one, but it subverts that expectation, which I like.
Yeah, it's representation for straight women too, and different kinds of moms. So that's
Maybe
good.
you can wear pants and have a job. Maybe dads can be the soft, squishy ones, you know, comfort you when you're feeling sad.
I don't remember who said it, but I did like when someone was like, you are so good at being straight.
That's Joel the Jew. Joel the Jew says that. Because Grant, get her cake.
Yeah, I liked Cathy Moriarty and her son. Like,
Rock.
just
Rock.
yes.
Hi, Mom. Flowers are pretty.
I know.
Anything with Rock.
And he was hilarious.
Really
He's drinking out of like some squiggly straws.
He's got
or
like
whatever.
a cocktail with the straw.
And she's like, chug it like a man.
Not in my presence. I have told you over and over again. No more sipping. Chug it like a man. Come on, chug.
There.
It's got severe, like, no wire hanger ever.
Right, yeah.
What have I told you? No straw.
I did read a criticism in a review that was negative overall, but one of the criticisms was that she was too Joan Crawford. I'm like, what do you mean?
She's bad.
That's literally not a thing to Joan Crawford, first of all. And second of all, yes, that's the idea.
I thought she was perfectly cast. Yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And you see she's really dealing with some stuff, too, when she's going through the thing about the woman, and she's like, putting lipstick over her full lips, soaking her body.
Why don't we concentrate on the first step? You admitting your problem. That when you see a woman in a tight skirt, and her long, beautiful legs, or perhaps she's in the bathroom, putting lipstick over her full lips, Or maybe in the locker room, soaping her body, rubbing her breasts. You don't have any unnatural thoughts.
I don't think it's unnatural.
Aha! You see? You don't even think it's wrong.
Like, she gets a little too into it.
Yeah.
I think about, like, totally hammering on the people who are repressing you are the most who have something to repress themselves, which is tired and yet also, unfortunately, true.
It's, like, so true. It's true a lot of the time.
Yeah. It wanders into that territory for just a little bit and then kind of pulls it back. And you're like, oh, I see why you're on this crazy crusade.
Right.
The self-loathing.
The self-loathing gay. A trope that you see again and again. Like I said, I wish that this movie did not feel relevant to today as much as it does.
Still got a long way to go, unfortunately.
What else does a suicide need, huh? Now, if you'll excuse me.
So this is what's called a lunchtime poll.
Did you think about the lunchtime poll, Kate?
I tried. I don't know if I have a good answer.
Would you like to go? You don't have to go first.
Last.
Then. Who would like to start then?
Well, let's say what it is.
Oh, right. The lunchtime poll is...
So this one's called a lunchtime poll.
The question is, what is something you didn't know about yourself until someone else pointed it out?
I'll go first because I could have had like 7 answers. But this was a fun discovery for me because about a year ago, we were playing a game that we made up called Rank You Next, and one of the categories was Most Reckless. And Matt was the one ranking, and he put me at the top. And then he's like, let me explain. He's like, almost missed your dad's funeral, missed the train coming home. I'm like, okay, fair, right? So then we got home from that trip, and I was talking to Logan, and I was like, we were playing this game, and Matt ranked me as most reckless, and Logan's like, yeah, totally. Like, duh, you didn't know that. And I was like, oh. And they were like, well, when we go on trips and you don't know, where we're supposed to be. Like, Logan had, 3 other reasons that were different from the ones Matt had. And then I started sort of paying attention to this trait. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I am, it'll be fine.
Well, I was going to say, one of your catchphrases is literally, it truly is, it'll be fine.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's probably fine.
I'm sure it's fine. But I also say those will probably be my last word. I'm sure it's fine.
But that doesn't make you any less reckless.
No.
Knowing that. Yeah.
It's probably fine, right?
Such a good answer.
That's a great answer. Well, I just learned a couple weeks ago, Andrew told me when I sleep, I kind of sleep like this with my chin resting on my... I don't know.
Like a knuckle.
kind of like a thinker's pose. Like I'm thinking really hard. And somehow that really blew my mind. I'm like, what?
So cute.
It's very cute. I was like, I don't have a good answer. And then we were talking about it before pod. As we were talking, I remembered a therapist pointed out that every time I'm talking about really tragic shit, I laugh a lot.
Oh.
And that came up in the conversation.
I know. I'm still like, what was funny about that?
And it's an interesting coping mechanism. He was like, maybe it's because you had such a sad childhood that you were trying to figure out how to get through that. And I didn't even notice it, really. And now I notice it a lot. But I literally can't help it. It's like a reflex. I say some tragic shit and then I laugh. So... I don't know, maybe I think I'm diffusing the tension, or I don't want people to feel bad for me. I don't know what it is, but...
Or I think so, it's maybe not fear of intimacy, but it's hard to deal with sad stuff, so it's oh, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Yeah, what's the alternative?
Right, to acknowledge that something is sad or painful.
Yeah, I feel like that's not so uncommon. I get that.
Sort of what this movie does, right, is there's so much sadness inherent in this when you really drill down to all these kids just want to be normal and they want to please their parents and that's why they're here. Their parents want them to be happy and that's why they're spending all this money for them to be here. But it's in this satirical kind of vein so that none of that weighs things down too heavily. I think that is historically, and especially among marginalized communities, something that people do.
And that's why I want to watch this movie over and over again and Brokeback Mountain only once.
Yes. I mean, for me, I did not have an intervention, and the movie was in some way an intervention, but I do remember I was at a party, and there was a boy who liked me, and everyone was like, he's gonna ask you out. So the way that I dealt with this was by finding a piano that had like a long drape over it, and I hid it under the piano for the remainder of the Wow. Yeah. And I remember like emerging after he had left, and my friends kind of looking at me and being like, was that the right response? What's going on with you? And I was like, what's going on with me? Which I did not act on or make anything. But I remember them looking at me like, that's not a normal response. And internalizing, oh no, that is not a normal response to a perfectly nice boy who I've been friends with for the better part of this play that we were working on. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Something is afoot here. But it took me a while to put everything together. But yeah, I emerged from that piano like so sweaty and triumphant that I evaded. These guys. And I just remember my friends looking at me being like, what's going on with you?
Did anyone see you go in there? Or was it a surprise when you came out?
Yeah, no, I found a room that did not have anyone in it, and I was like, under the piano. What kind of a heist movie did I think of? Glass Onion kind of murder mystery. I think I was.
And then you witnessed a murder. That's really cute.
That was probably the biggest thing that I've ever not known about myself. But I do feel like it's such a gift for someone to reveal you to yourself. And it does usually come when you have somebody who's really close to you, like a partner or a parent or a child. So it's a little bit of an act of love, I think. So even though Megan's friends and family were obviously in the wrong, they all thought they were doing something nice for her. Like, it's kind of hard to hate them because
they're very concerned.
They were trying to do something that they thought made her life easy. And I feel like that's something that a lot of gay kids run into when they tell their parents. It's like, it's not necessarily that parents are bigoted or that they disapprove, but like, they just want your life to be easy. And they know that this is not an easy life. And
right.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of times when somebody is revealing something to you, sometimes that can be really mean and hurtful and come from a hurtful space because they want to like control you with that information or something. But a lot of times it's just the act of having been seen by someone, and it's loving. So even if it's something that's kind of tough to swallow, like, oh, you're reckless,
Yeah.
you have to appreciate where it comes from.
Oh, I did appreciate it, yeah. Everyone who had several examples, everything did turn out fine in all of those situations. So I was like, all right, keep it up.
It'll be fine.
Right.
And it was. Narrator, it was fun.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that it was kind of a big revelation to me as a person who grew up Catholic but was an atheist for a very long time and early on was that some of them really do believe in hell and fire and brimstone and eternal suffering. They think that you're going to be like poked with a pitchfork by Satan for all eternity if you make these decisions. And if that were true, that fucking sucks for people you love. You don't want that to happen to them. It's hard to think like that, but when you see it from their point of view, you're like, okay, I guess it is coming from a good place, theoretically.
Yeah, like on the micro level. On the macro level, I think we do not have to extend that compassion to politicians or culture warriors who are using gay or trans people as a cudgel.
Yeah.
They don't get that benefit of the doubt. But I think on the micro level, in one person relating to another, in parents trying to protect their kids, not as a way to do this culture war bullshit or whatever, but because they really are genuinely invested in wanting the best for their kids. And so that's maybe something where I could stand to do some self-examination and try to find some more compassion and understanding for where those people are coming from, as opposed to just writing them all off as like hateful bigots.
But I do agree that it has to come from someone who shows you love in other ways. Because if it is someone who's just hateful, then fuck them anyway. Like, whatever they think, fuck them. But if it's a parent that's like, I really love you and I want the best for you, then a little compassion is a good thing to have, but it also is not an obligation. And my therapist has told me, like, I don't have to have charitable thoughts about the fucked up things my parents did. It's nice if I do for them, but it's definitely not an obligation anyone has to forgive people for hurting them.
Yeah. I would like to see a little flash forward of like Megan and Graham living together happily, and you know, maybe her resolving things with her parents someday. Like, I would like to believe that they can all get around to that point, but it's also understandable. Sometimes you just can't. Like, you just have to make your decisions to be the happiest person you can, and sometimes that involves not letting people who want to hurt you back into your life.
It'd be fun to see, like, everyone's 10 years in the future, you know, it's like who was able to end up living as they really are.
Yeah, I feel like Melanie Lynskey's character definitely winds up back in the closet somehow. Or running a very similar, you know, and the cycle of abuse perpetuates. She was the best at becoming straight, and she's the one who's like, isn't it great to be straight? Like, she's the example of the character who buys into it hook, line, and sinker. She's like, yes, and I'm gonna do all these things. And it's sad, you pity her a little bit. Also, like, you realize that she's gonna go on and she's gonna probably inflict this on other people. Even though she's obviously not cured. Like, she's trying to feel up Jan. Wedding dress fitting.
Yeah, I think you're right. She is such a rule follower, and she really delighted in telling Megan all the rules and everything.
Rise and shine at 7. Breakfast at 8. Group therapy until lunch. Now in the afternoon, we have free time to do, whatever. And then we move inside for reorientating exercises.
And then busting Megan when she got in trouble with Graham. Somehow Graham emerges unscathed, but Megan, I'm assuming that's because Siobhan, who has a thing for Graham, tattles on them.
Yeah, there was some fucked up narking.
I know, there's a lot of narcs in there.
Yeah, actually Megan narks, and that's one of my hot probs with her. Yeah. She narks on the two boys. It's like, ew! I was like, oh, that's not...
Yeah,
that's
not cool, Megan.
Not cool.
Yeah, that is one thing, and I feel like she gets forgiven very quickly by Graham. She's really not in the doghouse very long. That is something that narratively I thought was a little bit of a... Not a continuity problem exactly, but just like, oh yeah, so Graham's just gonna forgive her because she thinks she's hot. Unfortunately, that is probably how it goes.
Yeah. Exactly correct.
How very.
Awesome. Do you have any closing remarks about this movie, Kate, that you want to impart?
I just want to say thank you for letting me talk I felt like I totally dominated the conversation, so sorry about that.
I love it. Thank you.
This movie means so much to me. It is the movie I've seen more than any other movie other than Showgirls. But whereas that is more of just, I like to watch it and just hate Nomi so much. Laugh at how horrible it is. Like, this is just a genuine, sweet, means a lot to me kind of movie. So it was a real gift to getting it. And it's something that I feel like no one has seen. I don't really get to talk about a lot. So it was really nice to have this space and be able to do the research for it. Probably the most fun research I've ever done.
I really enjoyed the research too.
Hopefully that Jamie Babbit is so not problematic too. She really tried hard to cast a movie that was diverse. That she's always tried to lift people up who are people of color and put them into positions. Even just her assistant, she advertised for it on Craigslist rather than using the studio's list of people who had been assistants before.
Oh, that's awesome.
She wanted to pull in people of color and people who had not had these opportunities. She's really neat. I really enjoyed learning about her. I wish that she got to direct more movies. And I would like to get Barry Paris and Kevin Thies and David Edelstein and Peter Bradshaw and Paul Tutara. I'm just going to scatter Legos in front of them for them to step on. Blame them all directly for her not getting more opportunities.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, she has done a lot of TV even recently.
Yeah, her episode of Only Murders is great.
It's a popular show, too. Yeah. So hopefully that'll open more doors.
And she's young. She was 29 when she made this movie.
Oh, wow.
So she's 10 years older than me. I mean, she's still got a lot of filmmaking years left if that's what she chooses to do. So fingers crossed, Jamie Babbit.
And a lot of new perspective, too, probably. And at least a little bit more wiggle room.
Right, you would think.
I feel like there will be a trans person or maybe a bi person in her next movie.
Right.
Why not both?
Shoot for the stars.
I was just gonna say, I hope you put a clip of the cheer from the end in our episode. I just love it so much.
It's so fucking cute.
You're the one that I adore. I just love that.
1, 2, 3,
4, I won't take no anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8, I want you to be my mate. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're the one that I adore. 5, 6, 7, 8, don't run from me, 'cause this is fate.
She is so adorable in that role. Oh my god.
He's so cute, but that was like kind of one of my hot props.
Oh, really?
Like, she's not that good at cheer.
Same thing. I was like, this is not much of a cheer. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. You're the one that I adore.
Yeah.
I just love.
It's a lot to ask, and also Natasha, like, God love her, was probably like rolling on coke at the time.
Yeah.
If anything, though, I feel like that should have kept up the cheer.
Maybe she was coming down that day.
Set to that. This movie has a great soundtrack, first of all.
Oh yeah, it does.
I'm so sad it's never been like put out in any commercial way. Like, I have like a bootleg one that I have like on CD that my sister burned for me like 20 years ago, but
I would bet there's like Spotify playlists.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is one nice thing about Spotify is you can make the soundtracks that don't exist.
Right. I'm sure somebody has done it. So the Gainsbourg estate had to give her permission to use Chick Habit, which is like the original is La C'est le temps le fil or something. I don't know. It's the cover, but they still had to get permission from the Gainsbourg estate to use it. And so she wrote to the Gainsbourg estate, and they wrote back, "We only allow music to be used in movies that we think Papa would have liked. We love your movie." I was like, the Gainsbourgs are cool. The Gainsbourgs are movies. Like,
Oh, that's nice.
That's fun. The soundtrack on this is great, except I do feel like the music at the end, because it's like that same, it's their love scene song. I wish it was just like a little peppier, or a different song, maybe. You didn't have to bring that one back at the end. That's my very, very small note on this. It's just, I wish that scene had a little more energy.
I guess I like that though because it just makes her seem so normal, right? She's not like a genius. She's not a poet.
No.
She's just
She
a real regular girl.
Yours don't have to be intellectual. They
Yeah.
just make people feel good.
Can't all be bring it on.
She's a normal cheerleader. And I do like that cheering gives her such a sense of happiness. She's later on like, that's what got me through.
I never felt that way before. Except for what? Don't laugh, okay? Except for when I was cheerleading. Really? I'm serious. So it sounds stupid to you, but I really love it. Cheerleading's the one thing that's kept me happy.
I think that's very sweet. I just wish Natasha
Right.
She's like, I'm already doing so much here, guys. Suppressing this accent is not easy.
It's true.
She's adorable though. Alright, well thank you, Kate. This was great.
Thank you for having me on. I really, really enjoyed it.
Hey.
We'd love to have you back for another episode.
I don't know. I mean, you've now done every movie that I've seen in the last year. Happiest Season, Showgirls, and I'm a cheerleader. That's kind of my rotation.
Well, if you ever see another movie you like, let us know.
Yeah. I will.
If you enjoyed this episode of Paid in Puke, please take a minute to give us 5 stars on your preferred podcast app. If you did not enjoy it, no further action is necessary. Paid in Puke is hosted by Jessica Baxter, Amy Green, and Christina Barr. Follow us on Twitter at PaidInPukePod, on Blue Sky at PaidInPukePod, on Instagram at PaidInPukeSeattle, and on Facebook at Paid in Puke Podcast. Paid in Puke is produced and edited by Divine Betty Media. Music by Silent Partner and Jessica Baxter. Thanks for listening. You're beautiful.
Lick it up, baby. Lick it